Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Once again, it's Jeremy from Valorous Circle. I do this every Tuesday at around 11 a.m. To do Stump the Chump. I want to be your internet marketing buddy. And as always, online with me is our producer, Mike. Mike, want to say hi?
Hello, everyone.
So I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but we got a thunderstorm rolling through. So if you hear big bangs, that's what's going on. Um, so how this works is Mike usually scours the internet for some questions or some conversations he's had with people or questions that pop up on our social feeds. So, Mike, not knowing what we're talking about today, what do we got?
We're going to see if I can stump you today. We haven't talked in either our podcast, shameless or a little plug for our digital marketing DM Shop Talk podcast that is released every Friday. We haven't talked about branding yet, and I haven't found a really good question. What is the role of branding in marketing a plumbing business, and how can I establish a strong brand identity?
I love it. So, pop quiz, Mike. Do you know where the terminology of branding came when it comes to marketing?
I have no idea.
Think about Moo Moo Buckaroo. So, a brand is something that ranches used to use for their cows, so they just could distinguish them between other cows. So, like if when it was kind of like open range where they could kind of be wherever they wanted to be, you could actually tell which cows belong to which rancher. So the term branding, if you think about it in its simplest form, is literally burning an image of your business into the minds of the people who you could do business with. So since then, it's involved to having stuff like called like a love mark or uh, uh, I'm just gonna keep it at that. So, but with that, if you have a plumbing business and you're looking at branding, we really have to think about how can you burn the name of your business and possibly your contact information or your website into the people who you want to do business with so they think of you first. We're looking at how to get mind share. And I don't want to be on a soapbox, but I get really excited about this stuff, so I kind of nerd out. And the best and quickest way to do that is to think like how do you start remembering things? And chances are it's going to be that you hear the same thing over and over again, and eventually that becomes the brand. And so if you have a plumbing business, my suggestion is coming up with a motto or a slogan that's memorable. Do think about things like jingles, and so when people hear a jingle, they'll think of you. Um, and also, where are you present? If you're only marketing online, which is a great spot to start, you're going to hit half the population. Where do you have to be to hit the other half of the population? So, we're looking at possible TV commercials, YouTube commercials, um, possibly doing like billboards and stuff like that. But you want to be memorable on the image or how people can remember your name. And for a plumber, name the solution. How do they contact you, and why should they contact you? That's kind of the simplest terms of how you can create a brand around how people remember you. So, long-winded answer. Mike, you're usually good at picking other questions out of my statements. Do you have any questions on what I just kind of went through?
Yeah, I think just more specifically about plumbing, I think you did a great job covering what branding is. I think a direction I would like to see you go is how if I'm a plumber in a pretty decently busy area, how can I use branding to my advantage to distinguish myself from the other plumbers in my area?
Yeah, you got to be top of mind. I mean, that's what it kind of comes down to. And so, if you see marketing that works on you, top remember other services, um, that's reliable to homeowners or commercial properties in which you're deploying on. Um, you got to get in front of those people with something that's memorable. And how can you use that to your advantage? I think anybody who even remotely thinks about branding is starting an advantage over the people who don't. The people who invest a lot of money into it usually are the ones that are your biggest competitors in the area. And so do invest money in your brand. I mean, that's one thing that, like, you can't just think of a slogan and think of a jingle and say it once or twice. You got to get the stuff out in front of people time and time again, over and over again, until you remember it, um, like it was second nature. So, okay, I when you think about tissue paper that we wipe our nose with, almost everybody says Kleenex nowadays, and that's because Kleenex brand is so strong in people's head that it's now the what people refer to. Instead of a tissue for my nose, it's, can you get a Kleenex? You need to think of like that. How do you become Kleenex? How do you become the brand name? So when people think about plumbers, they think about you. So, and just take advantage of any outlet that's out there to get your brand out there. Kind of open-ended question, answer, but I don't think there's any recipe that I can give you, because I don't know people's budgets. I don't know, the desired outcome. Obviously, is to get leads, but uh, how much are you willing to invest into your brand? So good questions.
What would
So
you say? What would you say? I know a lot of times people connect plumbers branding to a logo, to a color scheme, to the name of the business. I guess that's kind of where branding starts, and then you build from there. Do you have any tips or strategies when it comes to maybe a plumber who might be going through a rebranding, or maybe someone who's starting up their plumbing business now? Do you have any tips, tricks, strategies when they're designing their logo, coming up with their business name?
yeah, I mean, anybody can create a logo nowadays online, which is not a bad thing, right? It's a starting point. If you're going through a rebranding, you become memorable when you become layers deep. Meaning, like, if you look at your logo and you can tell right away you're a plumber, that's awesome. But what else does your logo say about you? Um, Trying to think of imagery that would be a good way to do this. Let's say that you wanted to include like metal textures into your logo. Just an example, right? What does that metal say about your company? Does it say that you're hardworking? Does it say that um, you know you're cold? You could take it as a negative too. So really think about not only the imagery and the color tones, but go layers deep to become more memorable. Um, there are some really good logos, and I'll try to, maybe next time we do it, I'll go live. I can actually bring this up on my screen. I'll do this on my computer instead. But there's some logos that are really clever out there that will make people say, like, "Oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's what that is," and that logo then becomes very, very memorable to people. If you just do a Google search for Spartan Golf Spartan Golf logo, that's like one of the most clever logos I've ever seen in my life, and it's layers deep. It's the Spartan. It's also a guy swinging a golf club. It's layers deep, and it's ingrained in my head because it was so clever. If you own a business and you want to be memorable, being clever is probably the first thing that I would do, or I'd consider, um, and being memorable would be second. If you are going to be memorable, what makes you memorable? Is it the colors? Is it the icons? Is it your slogan or your motto that's included with the logo? Is it just something that you can remember over and over again? So really, I feel like I'm going down a couple rabbit holes, and I apologize. I get really geeked out about this stuff, and sometimes my mind just goes pew like a little pinball. But um, be memorable. Just think clever, and if you come up to a stopping point where you just don't know if you have something that's clever, take it to a group, take it to a mind share. There's other business owners in your area that you probably know and do business with. Approach them with it as an idea, and see what they would think too. Most time they say two minds are better than one, so that's what I would do.
Want to emphasize something you said there, getting extra help when you're done, or when you kind of just to have a second eye on it, just
Mhm.
because I know a lot of times business owners, when you create a name or create a logo to go with your branding, you could be biased with what you create. So it's always good to have an outside eye looking in to just kind of give you some advice, if because obviously you're not creating your brand or logo for yourself, you're creating it for your audience. And I think that's always good to kind of have an outside eye looking in with that in mind.
And I'm gonna say don't do it alone too. Hire a company that's really good at this stuff, right? People hire you because you're a plumber and you're really good at what you do. Hire a branding consultant. Hire a team to work on this with you, and then also help them understand that you need to be put in front of people, and then look at possible ROI on the marketing that you can spend on it. So, and I know that people like I know the stuff that's in my head when I think of a plumber, when I think of breaks or whatever have you. For some reason, my mind always goes to the jingle, and that's because I like music and I can remember lyrics really, really quickly. But if you are on print, what makes your stuff stand out, right? Um, there's a realtor I worked with a long time ago who only did things on pink paper, and so anytime that he left a flyer out on somebody's house, or if it was a marketing brochure, it was done on pink paper, and like I always thought that was the most annoying thing in the world, until people started to realize like he's the pink paper realtor, and that was just part of his brand, and he was very successful. So uh, think like that, right? I mean, it could be as simple as the color of the paper that you use for the marketing materials that you have. So yeah, it's good stuff. So as you can see down here, we have valorcircle.com/linktree. Do go to that. We have a special right now on our websites, and I don't want to make this like a whole a point where we can actually tell you about the specials we have, but this one is expiring soon, and so do take advantage of it if you can. It's $4.99 a month for a ton of stuff that we're putting together for our clients. I do think you should take advantage of it, because once that goes up, it's gonna go full price at $9.99. So jump on that bandwagon as soon as you possibly can. Mike, as always, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you scouring the internet and stuff. Any words of wisdom before we sign off today?
One last thing about branding. This might be simple, but it could be very easily overlooked. If you're coming up with a new business name or logo, make sure to always do a quick Google research to make sure that the name or logo or something along the lines isn't already taken. Can save you a lot of headaches and time down the road and possible legal trouble. So it's
Yeah,
simple. Make sure you make sure you double check when it comes to that type of stuff.
yeah, right on the button, man. Good point. Cool. Well, until next Tuesday, you guys have a great week. Thank you again, Mike.